If you want to see some evidence for the possibility of a Stephen King cinematic universe, stick around to the end of this video. This shot was in the teasers, but I actually noticed something new. You can see the crew and production truck in the reflection here. And speaking of reflections, remember how I pointed out that there were no eyes in Pennywise's reflection in the water? And I said it may have just been an unfinished visual effect that would be added before the movie was released? Well, it looks like they have gone and added that into the trailer, because as you can see, eyes should reflect on water. Here we see the Lucky Seven all together in what is presumably the Barrens, the place where they hang out and build a fort to hide out from Henry Bauer's gang of bullies. This has got to be the scene where they make the promise. If you're not familiar with the story, the book begins with Mike Hanlon as an adult calling all the childhood friends to remind them of the promise they made, that they would return to Derry if it were to ever come back. Mike is holding his wrist in an awkward way. It might be nothing, but I feel like it could be that his wrist got hurt during the rock fight with Henry Bauer's gang. This is a nice touch. Before, we saw a missing poster for Patrick Hockstetter, but we weren't really sure if this was an Easter egg from the book or if Patrick was going to be an actual character. It looks like he's going to be part of it, as his face is seen right here, along with what I assume is Belch Huggins, Henry Bauer's, which is kind of confirmed because Henry has a knife just like this in the book, and possibly Victor Criss. Even before the trailer dropped, I had begun to suspect that Patrick's story would be documented in this new movie when I saw an article talking about how it would be taking advantage of its R rating in ways that the miniseries just wasn't able to as a TV program. I think if you're going to remake, reboot, or readapt something, you should have a good reason for it other than just money, and making a darker It movie in order to do justice to the disturbing nature of the source material is a green light in my book. I'm not saying that it's my book, it's Stephen King's book. I don't want to start that whole thing again. Belch is wearing an Anthrax shirt, which is interesting because in the book, which is set in the 50s rather than the 80s, one of the few things that all the kids seem to agree on, Lucky Seven and Bauer's gang alike, is their love for rock and roll, a love that is not shared with seemingly any of the adults in Derry. That becomes kind of a motif, a symbolic representation of Pennywise's reign of terror in Derry. Adults are in denial and kind of turn a blind eye to the reality of the situation, because they're afraid of change, whether it be the rise of rock and roll in the 50s or the rise of an evil being in their town. With this being said in the 80s, maybe metal serves that purpose now. I certainly wouldn't mind seeing Richie jamming out some Madhouse. This Derry newspaper is from 1908, one of my personal favorite years in history, and there's an article about the ironworks explosion. So it would seem that despite moving up the timeline involving our main characters, Derry's past history has only shifted 2 years. It's 1906 in the book. This is just speculation, but I'm thinking something bad happens on the anniversary of the ironworks disaster. The book Ben is reading is called A History of Derry. He also has a cassette player. Look at the wallpaper behind Bill. Circus animals. Pennywise actually does have ancient ties to the circus in the story, which is where he got his name, Pennywise the Dancing Clown. The whole basement scene is pretty dark in this shot, so let's turn up the lights. In the corner, there are some oars, and there's also a life vest on the wall. I wonder if these choices have anything to do with the fact that Georgie dies while playing with the paper boat, because he does appear in this scene as well as an apparition. Here's another dark scene. Lumos Maxima. Okay, this is creepy. First thing I noticed is Pennywise sinking into the well. If Ringu didn't make wells creepy enough for you, it looks like the clowns got you covered. There's also a hand on the side here, maybe one of the kids pushing open a door. Scattered on the floor are children's clothes and toys. This looks kind of like an elephant, another circus animal. I know I said this adaptation would be darker, but children's clothing? This could be a lot more messed up than I thought. It's also shown in this other shot right here, and there's also a noose hanging from the rafter. This room is full of various clowns and has a few things that I loved. I'll turn up the lights again to make it easier for you to see. This little guy right here is a nice throwback to the Tim Curry Pennywise design from the 1990 TV miniseries. At first, I didn't notice this clown's head turning to follow Eddie as he walks. It's good to see something subtle like that and know that it's not all just jump scares. Bill wears a Tracker Bros t-shirt in this shot. It's a nice little Easter egg referencing the Tracker Bros shipping company, a family-owned trucking service in Derry from the book. I'm really impressed by the level of detail in this film, like the inclusion of Mr. Keene, the pharmacist who supplies Eddie with his inhalers, or the glowing yellow eyes of the clown. Some people theorized in my comment section on the previous videos that this It movie could be tied in with the Dark Tower movie that's coming out this year and is also based off a Stephen King novel. The movies aren't being made by the same studio, and I wasn't really a believer that there could be a Stephen King cinematic universe for that reason, as cool as it might sound, but since then I've noticed some possible clues pointing to one. I definitely wouldn't say anything is confirmed, and some of these are a little bit of a reach, but I'm going to show you what I noticed, and you can put your own findings in the comments. Smith Corona is a typewriter company. The typewriter is a very important prop in The Shining. I already mentioned the Christine shirt in my other video, and there's this newspaper headline that says, "No indictment yet on Gillespie," and I wasn't able to read anything past that, but Gillespie is a character in Salem's Lot. In fact, he's a cop. By the way, did this shot kind of remind anyone of Salem's Lot? But the biggest thing for me is this Dark Tower trailer that came out yesterday. In the title of the video are the words "Connected Kingdom." It starts with an animation taking us through the Overlook Hotel in The Shining, then it transitions to the sewers of Derry, with "The turtle can't help us" graffitied on the wall. If you don't know the significance of the turtle, an entity in both the Dark Tower and It, I suggest you check out my last It video right here. Then we're invited to the prom scene from Carrie, Andy Dufresne's prison cell in The Shawshank Redemption. This is Christine, complete with CQB241 license plate, and these are the two main locations from The Stand, and it all leads back to the Dark Tower. If you want to see a Stephen King cinematic universe, leave a like on this video. On Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be streaming on the air for our first ever episode of The Dead Stream. It's a YouTube horror podcast where we'll be talking about all kinds of horror related topics. All you have to do is subscribe to CZsWorld and make sure you have your death bell notifications on. And I hope to see you in The Dead Stream, assuming we both survive.